Joining us now is 8th District Congressman, a Democrat from Virginia, Jim Moran. Great to have you with us today, Congressman.
Thank you, John. It's great to be with you. I appreciate your having me on the show.
It's certainly our pleasure. On Wednesday, President Obama says that he's going to unveil his budgetary plan. What do you look for in that, and how do you think it's going to differ from Harry Reid's plan?
I think it will differ from the Senate Democrats' plan substantially. The president's plan is a compromise. It's not going to make a lot of Democrats happy. It will include the chain buy, which reduces Social Security outlays by about $118 billion a year. It will have cuts in Medicare payments to providers. It will also cap the deductions for everyone at no more than 28%. So it brings in enough revenue and it cuts enough entitlement spending that we can stop the sequester and this ridiculous lurching from one crisis to another and get our country onto a stable road, that predictable path, as they say, so that the private sector can start investing the $2.5 trillion it's kept on the sideline because of all the unpredictability that we have now. That's what we need. We need what's called a big deal. We need compromise, and as a result, we need a budget that's not going to make either side happy. The Republicans are not going to want to cap the deductions, and the Democrats are certainly not going to want to touch entitlements.
Congressman, we were very critical of the Senate plan because at the end of the day, it never balanced the budget as far as the eye can see. So when you've got a $17 trillion debt and you can't find a way out, how will the president's plan differ from that?
Well, the Democrats' plan in the Senate didn't reduce entitlement programs. It maintained the discretionary funding, but pretty much at a level rate of spending. And it had a number of revenue raises, but the revenue raises that have been rejected in the past. So I agree with you that it doesn't fix the problem, and it's not going to be accepted by the House. No way, no how. Now, the House isn't going to embrace the president's plan either, but I think the president's plan is closer to the kind of bipartisan deal that you might be able to get. You've got to bring in more revenue. We can't run this country at it's about 16% of GDP. We've never had a strong economy when we weren't spending between 18 and 20% of GDP. But on the other hand, if we don't if we don't get some control over entitlement spending over the next several years, entitlement spending and interest on the debt, when it goes back to normal interest rates, is going to crowd out spending on everything else. And everything else is what we call the discretionary programs, which is defense, and it's also transportation, research and development, the innovation, the education, the things that pay dividends in the long run as a result of public investment today. And all those programs are not going to be, there's not going to be any money to fund any of them. So I do think that my generation of baby boomers, we're the problem. There's 77 million of us who are going to retire. We've got to get a handle over the money that we will be getting, particularly Medicare. Social Security is not so much a problem as Medicare. I'm 60, I'll be 68 shortly, and I'm eligible for Medicaid and Medicare, and on average, I will have paid about $122,000 into the Medicare system.
Right.
And if I took it, I don't take it, but if I did, I would be bringing out about $377,000. So who do we think, who does my generation think is going to pay for that difference when I'm going to be spending 3 times the money that I put into the system. Well, it's my children and grandchildren, and that's just wrong. So we've got to get a handle over healthcare spending. And there was a great article in Time magazine a few weeks ago that pointed out that we have a healthcare system that's the most inefficient in the world. In some ways, it's effective, but the fact is that every other country is spending half what we're spending, and they're living longer and they're healthier through most of their lives. So that's where we need to look and not be making these cuts in the way that we are through the sequester, which is just silly and I think counterproductive in the long run.
Representative Moran, do you believe that the entitlement reform that's going to be put on the table, as you're predicting by President Obama, is going to be significant enough so that it might get Republicans in the House to look at compromising on some of the other items that would eventually take us off the path of continual deficit spending?
Well, there's no way I could predict that. I think there may be some hope. This group that I'm a member of, No Labels, along with members like Scott Ritchell and a number of others, maybe we could play a consequential role in that process of compromise. I don't think that the majority of Democrats are going to support the president's budget. I know a majority of Republicans won't, but it's conceivable that we could get a bipartisan majority doing so. I think that this change CPI is going to cause the majority of Democrats in my caucus, and that's who I can speak for more easily, they're going to oppose it because of the change CPI. The Republicans will not want to cap deductions, but I think that they will also recognize that it's probably a fairer, better way of bringing in needed revenue than many of the other things that have been proposed. So, I guess you have to hold out hope. I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish about this, but
right.
We have to keep pushing because what we've got now is the worst of all worlds. I mean, this is an embarrassment. We create the crises. The sequester is the self-created crisis.
Yes.
It's undermined faith and confidence in our government, and it's been destructive in many parts of the country, and certainly it's going to hurt and over the next several months. It will hurt the economy in the Washington area, and it'll hurt the economy in Hampton Roads. There's no question about that. It's not over yet. I hopefully, if we can get a big deal compromise, then we can do away with the sequester. I was just down in Newport News and Norfolk talking with Scott Ritchell about No Labels, and people in the Newport News area should know that Huntington Ingalls just did get a good contract to continue shipbuilding. That's one of the things we were really worried about. I mean, the $2.6 billion for the USS Abraham Lincoln, that's a big deal. It's 3,800 people. So hopefully the Hampton Roads area is going to be able to continue hiring. That's some of the best shipbuilding, the best industrial complex we have really in the country. So, we're going to deal with this as best we can, but it's no way to run a government.
We have the pleasure of speaking to Congressman Jim Moran from Virginia's 8th District through the courtesy of the nonpartisan group NoLabels.org, by the way. And I would ask you, Congressman, you are very keen and always have been keen on helping the defense and tech sector job growth. What effect is sequestration having specifically on your 8th District here in Northern Virginia?
The 8th District is going to feel this more than any other part of the country. 40% of our economy is attributable to the federal government. It's not just federal employees, it's the federal contractors, and it's particularly all of the businesses, whether it be restaurants, grocery stores, services. That money is if you start cutting back significantly on that, and I think we will have to. I mean, most agencies are going to, including the Defense Department, are going to experience about a 14-day furlough. And contrary to when the government was shut down, there's not going to be any reimbursement for this. So that's a substantial cut in pay. It could be as much as 20% in some cases. Well, that makes it tough to make your mortgage and your car payments, and I mean, it will hurt this economy. Now, I think we'll continue. We're resilient. We've got more private sector development in the technology sector, particularly than we had several years ago. So we'll rebound. I think that, as I mentioned, the Newport News, Norfolk area is vulnerable too, because that's heavily dependent upon the government. But we do have some contracts that we're making for shipbuilding to keep as many people employed as we can in that part of the state. But Virginia generally is more vulnerable than most states, and specifically the Washington area is going to get hit the hardest. And I hope this is a lesson that we've got to support the kind of compromised budget that will enable us to move forward and to stop the hyperpartisanship.
As it goes to job growth in the economy here, especially in Northern Virginia, can you tell folks your efforts to try to relocate the FBI headquarters to Virginia? We already know they have facilities, obviously, at Quantico and around the state elsewhere, but the headquarters specifically to try and get them to move into the Commonwealth.
Our pitch, and the entire congressional delegation is involved in this, and Mark Warner and Tim Kaine, the two senators, and particularly, of course, the Northern Virginia members of Congress, have been pushing hard to have the FBI relocated from Washington, D.C. to Northern Virginia, because we have so many facilities that FBI employees would be working with. So from a logistical standpoint, it makes sense. We also have a majority of FBI employees who actually live in Virginia, so their commute would be easier, and we think we have several places at metro sites that would work very well for the FBI relocation. There aren't going to be too many relocations of federal agencies in the future. This is the big one, and it's a lot of employees. It's a lot of construction jobs, obviously, and it would really be a feather in our cap if we can land it. But there's intense competition with Maryland, so we'll just have to see. I mean, we're not going to play dirty. We're going to offer what we have in terms of the advantages, and General Services Administration will make that decision, which is the best thing.
New York Senator Chuck Schumer over the weekend said that that the U.S. Senate was maybe a week away, if not days, from coming up with an immigration reform compromise. How do you stand on immigration reform now, Congressman? What do you think needs to be done?
Well, it's a good question, John. I do think we need to resolve the issue, and it's one that is tailor-made for bipartisanship. We're all a nation of immigrants. Some of us decided to be Republicans, and others Democrats, and others independents. But if we trace our roots back, other than Native Americans, who we didn't treat particularly well, but the vast majority of people who call themselves Americans today were at one point our ancestors were immigrants, and I think we should embrace that aspect of our culture. Now, the issue is who gets to be a citizen legally, and is it fair for people who come to this country illegally to become citizens nevertheless? And I think just from a pragmatic standpoint, the answer is yes, we need to get them onto a path to citizenship, but they're going to have to be able to speak English fluently. They're going to have to pass a civics test. They're going to have to pay all back taxes. They're going to have, They're going to have to stay clear of the law. If they've been involved in criminal activity, they're going to have to be subject to deportation. But if they pass all of those criteria, they should be able to get in line into, as they say, a path to citizenship. And I think those are the fundamental criteria that both Democrats and Republicans are going to have to embrace.
Congressman, we are up against the clock, but I would love to have one more minute with you to explain your position as it goes to Mr. Obama's gun control policy, and would love to hear from you on that in about a minute, sir.
Well, I represent basically an urban area in Northern Virginia, and so my constituents feel that we ought not have military assault weapons and large-scale magazines on our streets and in our schools, and I happen to agree with them very strongly. But that's not going to be part of any legislation. We're hoping that we can get some background check legislation, so at least we know who's buying guns, and we can prevent those folks who common sense would say should not have a gun in their hands from being able to buy one. Joe Manchin, who is the leader of the No Labels group, is working with Pat Toomey, a Republican, and hopefully we can get some bipartisan support over in the Senate to get a bill out of the Senate and maybe, hopefully, through the House. I do think we ought to do something. If the Congress doesn't do something, then I think we're all collectively culpable for the next massacre of innocent children, and it's going to happen. We know it's inevitable if we don't get guns out of the wrong hands, particularly the high-powered guns. So I'm in favor of some kind of consequential effort to reduce gun violence. I hope we can get it done, but it's going to have to be done in a bipartisan way, and that's one of the reasons groups like No Labels and Joe Manchin particularly are going to have to play an important role in this.
We had Joe Manchin on as the group was announced, and we've had a number of members on from NoLabels.org, and quite frankly, Congressman, we hope that it isn't going to be another 6 months before we get to talk to you again. It was very nice to have you on again, and we do appreciate the efforts of NoLabels.org, who arranged your appearance this morning, and we can't thank you enough for your time.
It's my pleasure and honor to be with you, John. Thanks very much.